Random encounters distract from the actual adventure because they are boring, tedious, and unrelated filler. Now that's a very strong statement that I will explain in a few seconds. But in my experience, this is a real problem, and as a DM, I have often been guilty of filling my sessions with random encounters that just end up dragging the game down. Now there is a way to fix this, and that's what I talk about in the second half of this video, so you don't make the same mistakes I did. Now, randomly, roll for initiative. If your roll is higher than mine, like the video. If mine's higher than yours, subscribe. Oh boy! Why are random encounters terrible? The Dungeon Master's Guide suggests triggering a random encounter, quote, under any of the following circumstances. The players are getting off track and slowing down the game. The characters stop for a short or long rest. The characters are undertaking a long, uneventful journey. So really, any traveling that players will have to do. The characters draw attention to themselves when they should be keeping a low profile. Honestly, the last one is so specific that, to me, any DM worth their salt probably already has a very specific monster in mind that players need to be keeping away from, and there's nothing really random about that. According to all those examples, random encounters are literally meant to fill up space. Second, they are boring. Here are some possible encounters from the example table in the Dungeon Master's Guide. 1 Displacer Beast, an ivy-covered statue of an elven deity or hero. 1 Owlbear. 1 Treant. This one has some flavor text. The Treant is friendly if the party includes 1 or more elves or is accompanied by a visible fey creature. The Treant is hostile if the characters are carrying open flames. Otherwise, it is indifferent and does not announce its presence as the players pass by. Finally, an elven tune carried on a gentle breeze. Yeah, nothing overly compelling there, and certainly nothing that's relevant to the player's goals. Hostile wandering monsters that are meant to be fought usually create combats with stakes that are simply too low. A single monster or even a group of weaker monsters is no real threat to the players and end up just being really boring. You know, these are things like the players are traveling along the road and run into another goblin ambush, or they're traveling along the road and they run into a pack of wolves in the wilderness. Those kinds of things. Non-combat encounters with NPCs, or even friendly or indifferent monsters, usually amount to nothing, or are things the Dungeon Master can just use to set the scene. So let's fix them. If the encounter is with a hostile creature, make it hurt. One of the reasons to have random encounters is to keep your players on their toes, and nothing fills your players with more dread than the looming threat of a deadly encounter. So consider having more monsters that are wandering around, or just taking monsters that are much higher than the player's level, wandering the world naturally, with the possibility of being encountered. Most of all, you want to be intentional, and there's a few ways to do this. Instead of deciding whether or not to trigger a random encounter arbitrarily based on player engagement, plan random encounters as part of the adventuring day. According to the Dungeon Master's Guide, most parties can handle about 6 to 8 medium or hard encounters in one adventuring day. It's not a matter of if a random encounter will happen, it's a matter of when a random encounter will happen. The randomness is defined by its timing, not by its potential existence. Tie all random encounters to the core of the adventure. Now, the Dungeon Master's Guide actually refers to this as reinforcing campaign themes. The idea is that everything the players may randomly encounter is directly intertwined with the cause and effect of the main adventure. The example in the Dungeon Master's Guide is actually a really good one. Random encounters can remind the players of the major themes of the campaign. For example, if your campaign features an ongoing war between 2 nations, you might design random encounter tables to reinforce the ever-present nature of the conflict. In friendly territory, your tables might include bedraggled troops returning from battle, refugees fleeing from invading forces, heavily guarded caravans full of weapons, and lone messengers on horseback riding to the front lines. While characters are in hostile territory, the tables might include battlefields littered with the recently slain, armies of evil humanoids on the march, and improvised gibbets holding the bodies of deserters who tried to flee the conflict. So now as the players explore the world, they are always reminded of the bigger picture and the main adventure at hand. Finally, you want to give every encounter a purpose. This builds off of reinforcing campaign themes by taking those random encounters and giving them an active role rather than a passive one. You want outcomes of random encounters to have real consequences for the adventure as a whole, affecting players' decisions, which in turn affects the campaign itself. Using the previous example, your players may encounter an enemy patrol in hostile territory, engage them in combat, and upon being victorious, recover some crucial intel the patrol is carrying. And that information could be the key to thwarting one of the big bad's plans.